Pluto, we need to increase engagement through viral content. Have you been doing anything that has greater search power than romance mangas no one has read but you?
Well, I'm replaying one of my favorite Legend of Zelda games.
Ah, yes, the 3D remake of Ocarina of Time. That has a lot of search power.
Oh no, it's Link's Awakening. Hey, I could also talk about the manga that was never released in English.
Why are you like this?
I blame my mother. She had me watching the Marx Brothers when I was 5.
So let's get some cartoons and vodka and do them all night long. Are you ready for some fun? Drink 'em down, drink 'em down, drink 'em down. Drink 'em down, drink 'em down, drink 'em down. Oh.
Before we talk about the Link's Awakening manga proper, I want to take a more broad look at the general storytelling of the Legend of Zelda franchise. As a series of adventure fantasy games, The Legend of Zelda takes a decidedly light touch to storytelling, which makes them difficult to adapt into non-video game forms. The first game basically doesn't have a story outside of the game manual. As far as the diegetic narrative is concerned, the game is about a kid who found a sword in a cave and proceeds to go into other caves to kill dinosaurs. And reading the manual doesn't give you much more of a plot structure than kill the bad guys, save the princess. Later entries would certainly add things, but the core structure wouldn't change much. Go into dungeons, kill bad guy, save princess. Kill bad guy, save princess. Join pirates to rescue your sister. Oh wait, now you have to kill the bad guy to save the princess. Kill bad guy, save princesses. Kill bad guy, save princess. Which is definitely not a problem. The games mostly do interesting things inside this familiar framework. I just wanted to point out that the overall structure of most of the franchise is similar, including the greatest Zelda game of all time, Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. But there are two notable exceptions to this tried and true legend, Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening, which, probably not coincidentally, are spin-offs of two historic entries in the franchise. Here's hoping for a Breath of the Wild spin-off inspired by The Shape of Water. Link's Awakening crams a surprising amount of story into a Game Boy cartridge. Link is out sailing at sea on a raft because... adventure! When a storm introduces him to the zappy end of a lightning bolt, he washes up on the shores of Kohlint Island. He meets Marin and her dad and the scant few other residents of this island who have recently had a monster issue. Link gets told that the only way off this island is by waking the windfish by an owl who is far less verbose than his Ocarina of Time cousin. Holy Naru, stop talking! I know it's an adventure! I can see the giant field of adventure right past you! Just shut up and release me! So you do the 8 dungeons dance, spend some more time with Marin and the other islanders, and eventually learn that waking the windfish won't just banish the nightmare monsters, it's gonna make the whole island vanish, including all the new friends you made. This isn't treated like a twist, it's revealed roughly halfway through the game. Link's Awakening wants you to grapple with the consequences of waking the slumbering god. Not doing so will result in the whole island being overrun with monsters. But these are your new friends you're going to be wiping from existence. As per tradition, Link doesn't actually speak in the game, so the central question is more for the player than it is for him. But this isn't the usual destined quest to save the world kind of story. Link just happened to end up here and gets involved for mostly personal reasons. So this was an ideal situation to give him some more character. The Link we get in this story is a bit boorish, but kind, confident, and friendly. He's also very up for adventure. He honestly reminds me a bit of Dragon Ball era Goku, but much smarter and more worldly. After scarfing down 2 days worth of missed meals, he immediately sets off for the beach to find his lost sword. He's not even remotely worried about the monsters. After all, he is the hero of Hyrule. Where? A smart addition the manga makes is this fairy character who follows Link around at the behest of the owl to hold on to the magic instruments in, I guess, a pocket dimension. This stops Link from having video game endless pockets, since the manga also cuts out most of the usual items except for some bombs he finds. But it also gives him someone to talk to about the futility of his quest, since she is literally an agent of the island's desire to vanish. The fairy isn't necessarily happy that her mission runs completely counter to what her new friend wants, but her very existence is predicated on the quest to awaken the windfish. The manga also finds a lot of room to expand the character of Marin, who is straight up one of the best side characters in a Zelda game ever. Marin is so compelling because of her joy for life, but also her deep desire to leave this island and see the world. It's such a relatable desire and just heart-rending in its impossibility. She can't leave the island. She only exists in the dream of the windfish, and nothing Link can do will give her the ending she wants. There's a great added section where Link says sod it all to this quest and builds himself another raft to take him and Marin off the island. It's a very human reaction to finding out you're stuck in a helpless scenario. Of course, this plan doesn't work. No matter how hard he paddles, Link can only get so far away from the island, and Marin finally has to say that it's enough. This is just a fantastic bit, and I kinda wish it was in the game. It wouldn't have even been that hard. Do one of those infinite hallway things at sea where the only choice is to eventually turn around. The central question of what to do with the island is really fascinating in both the manga and the game. The monster problem will only get worse, so choosing nothing is cut off, and Link can't fight them forever by himself. In the end, the only real choice is to awaken the windfish and deal with the consequences. Link eventually decides that the only thing to be done is to hold the memories of the people close to his heart, with the manga version being quite touching. Side note, I love how big idea gonzo this plot is. Link stumbles into the dream of a slumbering god, where there's 2 towns of sentient life that have sprung up, and he has to save it? This is wackadoo in a great way. And it's different from the usual Hyrule gods who are barely present at all. The windfish is tangible and can talk, but is also extremely inhuman. It feels a lot more rooted in Japanese mythology than the usual Zelda conscious aping of Western fantasy. The Zelda mangas in general have lovely art, and this one doesn't break the trend. It's very much typical of fantasy adventure stories of the 90s, which is temporally correct. Faces are a tad 2D, but very expressive. Designs are fun and a bit wild, as befitting the Zelda game that just straight up stole Mario enemies. Not really in love with the redesign of Bow Wow, though. The manga does a solid job of condensing the experience of the dungeons, while also including visual references. It actually does more than it needs to with some of the fights, including the actual ways the bosses are fought in the game, like this guy who kidnapped Bow Wow, or the face on the floor getting blown up. Action in comic panels is a tricky thing. Link's Awakening opts for the superhero-style high-impact shots for the most part. Lots of Link shooting past the opponent with sword slashes in the enemy. At certain points, he starts to get worn down by the onslaught, but the manga also has a playful sense of fun, like here where Link bomb surfs 23 god-dang years before Breath of the Wild. And the story ends on an appropriately solemn yet hopeful note as Link paddles off to new adventures. So that's the Link's Awakening manga, and it's quite good. It captures the unique energy and themes of the game, expands the story in logical ways, and makes good adaptational choices. The whole thing's available for download from Zelda Legends, link in the description, so no worries about having to visit scan sites if you want to read this one. Image quality isn't great, but the translation is solid. Unfortunately, this one's not likely to be released in English at this point. We're lucky if we see the game being re-released on an eShop. And hey, there's plenty other Zelda manga to spend your money on if you really want to. They made a manga adaptation of most of the big-name titles, so your favorite's probably on the list. Or you could just go watch the English cartoon.
Hey, excuse me, princess.
You're welcome! Till next year, I'm Plutoburns, and this has been Eagleland.